paper, I'm looking at the fact that our schedule next year, just schedule alone, Notre Dame, Clemson, at Florida, Miami, at North Carolina. On paper, right there, that's 5 losses out the gate. That's
Right.
on paper 7-5 best record, and that's assuming that Florida State plays their best football. That's not assuming that we don't have another Georgia Tech hiccup game against a team like a Boston College or against a team like an NC State or Louisville. I mean, let's not forget we're playing Louisville, who spanked us by 32 points. NC State spanked us by 16 points. We didn't play Boston College, and Boston College was a bowl-eligible team. That's where we are right now, and that's assuming that we play our best football is an on paper 7-5. Now, do I, as a Florida State grad who is a diehard biased Florida State guy, do I think we're going to go 12-0 in my heart? Yes, I think we're going to go 12-0. In my head, we're going to be damn lucky to be 6-6 at this point. Could things change? Absolutely. That's what I said. That Notre Dame game is going to be the most important. If we come out against Notre Dame and look decent and either win that game or lose by 10 points or less, I will have much more confidence at that point in the season. If we come out and get bum rushed that first game, we're in trouble.
The only thing that has kept this from being the toughest schedule in the country, and I always do scheduling analysis during the off season and compare the schedules, but this schedule is about as tough as it can possibly get. You're playing the 2 best teams in the other division. You, of course, play in the better of the 2 divisions, and you face one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the country, plus non-conference Notre Dame and Florida. That is a rough schedule.
You look.
Yeah, I agree with you on the five. I'm with you on that. Again, if it is true and the talent on the roster has gotten that bad and you haven't replaced it with 43 players leaving, because the 43 of the 79 players that were originally here when Mike first took the job are now gone. So this is his roster for the most part. If you haven't improved it, then you're obviously taking a step back, because there are 8 winnable games in there. There should be 8 winnable games. I concede those 5, and you need some good things to happen. A ball could bounce the right way. You jump on North Carolina like you did last year. That can help you. Miami's a gift right now because the porn star with the teeth is coming back because King is hurt. Or actually, they're saying he might come back. He's right now definitely going to finish the spring semester, but they could be starting at Jake Garcia. That's probably reasonably where they're going. And God bless the trap if Van Dyke is starting. That would be even more of a blessing. Oh gosh, that's the best thing that could happen for us because he's awful. Notre Dame is losing a lot. Matter of fact, I'll have Ian Book on my show Sports Day tomorrow. He shared some very interesting things and takes on Florida State the two times he's played them. So Notre Dame loses a good amount of things. Clemson returns a lot, and that's going to be a shellacking. I'm with that. But it's, again, I get what you're saying. My expectation can't go lower than 8, because if it does, then it really just proves my point that we made a rash rush decision on a guy who's not a bad coach. He just wasn't ready for this level yet. And I have to believe if he's better, I have to believe if some of these guys, the spin, but it's good spin. It's positive spin. War Chant released this chart with the amount of starts, the amount of yards, the amount of interceptions, the amount of tackles, the amount of sacks that that a lot of these mercenaries are bringing in, and that's all improvement. But if it hasn't improved to the point where we can beat the Louisvilles of the world, or we can beat the NC States of the world, and we can be, can be confident about the Dukes and the Boston Colleges and the Wake Forest, then Jesus, we're really going downhill at a very fast pace, and we can't even look globally or nationwide when it comes to like how to get better and to really compete if we can't beat those teams. Because when I'm looking at what Alabama's doing, there's only one other team. There's only a few other teams outside of the SEC that can compete with that, and they don't have that TV money. Clemson is one of them. Oklahoma and Texas are 2. Oregon because of Uncle Phil. USC because of the foundation and the name recognition. If this is the case, this is what we are. I'm going to go ahead and say it. Worse than the glory days are not ahead of us. We might as well call a spade what a spade is. we might as well go ahead and just drop because it's not going to get any better. You're just going to lose money by trying to pretend to play with the big dog. So you can either have so I can't even have an expectation of 6 wins. My standard is championships. My expectation is 8. So if he can't make 8, then he got one more year. That third year, he's on the hot seat with me, and I like those guys. I hope to see him this weekend when I go to Tallahassee. But
James,
I'll tell him to his face.
James, you and I were at Florida State at the same time, so we were in that era of anything less than the ACC. Winning the ACC was a disappointment. So I agree with you. The expectation should be 8-4, 9-3 or better. 100% agree with you on that. What I'm saying is right now, with what we've seen at the end of last season, where we had where our biggest win at the end of the season was against Duke. That was our highlight to end the year, was a 56-35 win over Duke. Yeah, we scored 56 points. We also gave up 35 points to Duke. Looking at our schedule right now, and once again, we haven't gone through spring football yet. This is the way too early preview. But looking at our schedule right now, the only guaranteed wins I can say are Jacksonville State, UMass, and Syracuse. Those are the only 3 games right now that Florida State, without a doubt, are going to win next season. So that's 3-9 right there. So that's the question. Does Florida State pull off, like you said, do they pull off an upset win over North Carolina? I know Miami's losing a lot of guys, and D.R. King, depending on where that comes in the schedule, he's injured to come back. Notre Dame does give up a lot of guys. Clemson loses a lot of guys. But the thing is, Clemson's backups could still have kicked Florida State's butt last season. Notre Dame's backups could probably still have beaten Florida State last season. So the question is this Florida State team going to be better than what we saw last year? If so, I have confidence, and I agree with you. 8 wins should be the expectation. But right now, at this point, we've come in with our last 2 head coaches, with Willie Taggart in 2018 and with Mike Norvell in 2020, and said, listen, you guys are going to do well. You're going to do better than the last guy. Everything's going to be fine. And we've been disappointed in both years. You have to come in with the realistic expectation. Right now, the realistic expectation has to be, let's get to 6-6, and then everything after that is a bonus.
Again, that's my point. That sounds like what so you're saying is we might as well just go ahead and just accept the fact of what it is. It's a dead program.
Right now, yeah.
You need to accept that. But if the team's as good as they were this year, or as bad as they are this year, then they will go 3-9, as Jason just said. Those are the games that they're going to win if they don't improve at all. They're going to go 3-9. The schedule's that tough. If they're slightly improved, if they're not even slightly, let's say decidedly. I'm not going to say significantly, but I'm not going to say slightly. I'm going to say decidedly. Like everybody here could agree, this team was better in 2021 than they were in 2020. What do? Pick up 2 wins? Maybe they beat Wake Forest and NC State or Louisville. And that's about it. Just to finish my point, Jason, they would have to be then much better. They would have to go up a couple rungs in improvement than to beat that next level of teams on their schedule.
I think they beat an NC State because that game will be in Tallahassee. I do think home field does play an advantage in a game like that. And then I think they will. I think James is right. I think they will get at least one of those upset wins. I think they'll beat a North Carolina. I think they'll beat a Notre Dame, something like that. Yeah, so you've hit the nail on the head. That's 5 wins right there. You have to get one more win. Is it going to be a Wake Forest? Is it going to be going to a Boston College team that you needed a fourth quarter comeback to beat in 2019 when Odell Higgins was our interim coach? That's the question. Right now, Florida State has the name that they should be 8-4. Florida State has the tradition they should be 8-4. But that talent right now, is that talent an 8-4 talent on that roster, James?
That's what I don't know yet. Like I said, so there are some of the transfers that I absolutely do not like. I think they're great people, probably, but I just don't know. And they came from the SEC, but that doesn't mean anything to me. If you were a kid at Arkansas, you probably never known what it felt like to win a SEC game because you opted out this year. If you're the kid from South Carolina, I like him a little bit. I think it's Robinson. I like him a little bit. I'm not 1,000% sure. I do like the defensive end that came in. And Milton, I don't know. If Milton's healthy, I mean, he's saying he is, but if Milton's healthy, Milton is a potential upgrade at the quarterback position. But so I got to go if I feel like these, and I know you, Jason. So this isn't really geared to anybody here on this thing, but if a FSU fan is listening to this and you truly believe the hype and you've bitten into the apple, you've bitten into you drinking the Kool-Aid, that we have tremendously gotten this roster, or as people love to say, that roster is flipped. What a flipped roster means isn't that he brought in all of his guys. A flipped roster means the roster turnover is not good. That's what a flipped roster means. If the roster is flipped, then we should have talent that's good enough to beat Boston College, Louisville, NC State, Syracuse, North Carolina, Syracuse, Wake Forest, and then obviously, if we can't beat the walking wall, if he loses the walk belt, he needs to tender his resignation that night. Like as soon as 0-0-0 hits, you need to actually jump off the top of the Campbell Stadium. Like don't even just kill yourself. Right. But that should not happen. But those are the things again. It's just if Mike is a better X's and O's guys, which I still believe, even though it was bad. If Fuller's now getting his pieces and he becomes a better DC. I don't know, but again, like I just, I said 8 wins. Well, anybody asking me automatically, I'm going to probably always say, "What do you think, James? What do you need? What is the expectation? 8 wins. 8 wins until it has to go up." But I can see there's two definitely because if that's the case, we didn't beat Syracuse last time we played them. And Syracuse, though they lost a lot, is not a bad coach team. They got some talent there. It's really only 2 wins on that schedule. If that's how you truly feel.
Well, so basically, James,
Jacksonville State.
We can categorize their schedule 3 ways. The teams that you just mentioned, whether that's 2 or 3, as Jason pointed out, either 2 or 3 teams that they just trot out onto the field and beat. So that's either 2 or 3. Then they've got the 5 that they would have to elevate their play significantly to beat. And then all those teams on their plane, Louisville, NC State, Wake Forest, et cetera, et cetera. So James, for you to be satisfied, they need to beat obviously the garbage on their schedule. They need to beat all the teams at their level, and they need to steal one against the Big 5 for them to win 8.
I'll give the bowl game as 8. So I mean, if you win that, you're going to play the bowl. So 8 wins. Figure out how to get.
it. 7 and 5 winnable.
That's my 7 and 5 in regular season is fine. I got to get because if you can't beat those teams, then we're really really far away. We're far away from even thinking about those 5. And North Carolina, as good as North Carolina really is, it's still, I don't know, he's still not showing something. But I like the quarterback, though. Sam Howell, that quarterback, money year for him. I think they lost both the running backs here in the draft who are amazing. Yeah. Ask a University of Miami fan about them. They might go top 2 rounds off of that film alone. And they got it going against us later in the game. But Notre Dame, the tradition, no matter what, they're really, really good. Brian Kelly's a really good coach, well coached. Florida, they got a lot of stuff going in the background, what they do, but at the end of the day, they're very well coached and they're still there. But it's a lot of controversy in their locker room at this juncture right now. Clemson, until the NCAA comes and breaks them up, they're Clemson. For the ACC, I think they got a taste of getting close to that next level, but I think if you're going to get them, this is the time, but we're not there. So in Miami, I mean, Miami, though I respect the rivalry, I always respect the rivalry, but the Eric King is really what made them go. And I just don't, without him being healthy, like to think that when he towards ACL, to think that he'll be ready to go 100% by the first game, or even by that time when we played them, which would probably be the end of, which is traditionally it'll probably be the 4th or 5th game. If I going back to that, so you're talking about probably the beginning of October at worst if they move it back to around Halloween weekend. That's when it'll be. Like you're crazy. Like you're actually risking this kid's healthy, man. This kid's health. To come out here and win a game when he could just need to sit out. And we know he loves college. So just sit out and go ahead and get your 10th year in college. So that's really just really where it's at, man.
I feel that
I just want to beat the guys that we're supposed to beat, and then we'll figure out the other 5 later.
And I don't want to be the negative Nancy here, but I feel like when James says, when he says, you know, we should beat the Louisville, we should beat the Boston College, I agree we should. And then I watch us lose to Louisville by 32 points last year. I think Miami, I think he's right. You know, if De'Aaron King doesn't play against us, does that help us out? Absolutely. Does Miami have a few guys that are leaving? Absolutely. Miami also beat us 52-10. I'm seeing what we had now, and I don't see us getting drastically better to the point where we can win more than 3 games at this point. Now, after the spring, once the schedule comes out later on this month, we can see where things fall out, and who knows at that point. You know we open with Notre Dame. We know we play UMass. I believe it's the 23rd or 24th of October. You know, so there's a couple. 23rd, okay, yeah, and then we play Jacksonville State on the 11th. So we know there's a couple spots there, but for the most part, we don't know how things are going to play out. So I think there's a lot of that stuff we have to go. Now, Logan thinks we're going to go 12-0,